A new update just came to Le Mans Ultimate with 3 pieces of new and wonderful content that we'll be checking out in this video, so make sure you stick around till the end. We have a bunch of new content like the new Alpine and the Isotta Fraschini LMDh cars along with the Circuit of the Americas. On top of that, we have a bunch of practical and fun new features that could change the way you play Le Mans Ultimate, both alone but also in the way that affects your online experience. So let's just jump straight into it. Firstly, let's look at the Circuit of the Americas. This track is used in F1 and a lot of us know it either from other simulators or from series like F1 or the WEC, driving on them in real life. It is a very technical track and it's also got a lot of variety. There is the high-speed sections of the first sector, kind of the S's of Suzuka is kind of what it reminds you of, and then there's the final slow sector that's super tough on rear tires and super hard to spot the apexes. And in the mix of that, in the last sector as well, there's some high-speed corners. So it is a super varied track and actually quite a technical one. Now, this is a very technical track, COTA, right? Because you've got that corner combination, the floating sweeps, down to this hairpin, and this next upcoming section we've got coming up is super technical, right? It's very technical because it's slow speed, the lines, you can take multiple different lines, but also like throughout a stint, this section is super hard on the tires, like especially the rear tires, and also a bit the front, but mainly the rears because of these slow speed traction zones. Then into this high speed. It's just a very technical and very varied track, COTA. It's a lot of different corners, and that makes it quite technical and difficult. Now let's move on, because on top of the Circuit of the Americas, we've got a bunch of exciting new features that will add a whole nother layer to Le Mans Ultimate. Firstly, there is the co-op mode, which is actually a completely new way of sim racing together with your teammates. Basically, the way it's gonna work, let's say that I'm doing a stint, the first stint of the race. What I should be able to do is I can pull into the pits, finish my stint, and then I can hand over the race to my teammate with a break in it. So I can sort of save the game. If my teammate is not online at that moment, he can wait a couple hours, a day, and then jump on. And this is great because if your schedules don't align well enough for you to be able to do endurance races as a friend, this is literally perfect because you don't need to be in call or driving or ready at the same time. You can save it, leave it for another day, and then come back to it. On top of that, it can be done on individual difficulty. So let's say that my teammate is faster than me. I can turn the difficulty down for when I'm driving and turn it up for when my teammate's driving. Now, this is being done in a way of events where you need to get the highest score as a combined team. And there's already currently like 6-hour races and 2-hour, 3-hour races in there that you can do and sort of see how good of a score you can get. So this is super exciting, a new way for sim racing and sim racing endurance and team racing to be introduced into the world. Now, before we move on with the video, make sure that you subscribe to Overtake GG with notifications on so you won't miss any of our future uploads. Let's get back into it. On top of that, they're introducing mid-race saves for single player and AI races, which is super great because I don't think a lot of people have 6 hours or so if you want to do those longer races with AI. I don't think a lot of people have 6 hours of time, let alone energy, to drive for 6 hours straight. So I think this is a great new feature because it will sort of allow you to split into smaller bites, maybe drive for an hour, then leave it for another day and then come back to it. So if you really like doing those longer races, there's also a great feature. On top of that, they have introduced some new menus, making it quite a lot easier actually to navigate the game and sort of find the right car, find the right track combo. Now let's move on to some more of the new content, because we've actually only really looked at the Circuit of the Americas content-wise. Let's talk about the Alpine LMDh car. This car, of course, races in the real-life World Endurance Championship like all of these cars do, and actually it's been doing pretty alright on pace. For example, at the Le Mans this year, it wasn't necessarily slow. I think it was running around top 6, top 7, before, unfortunately, both of the Alpines retired before the 6-hour mark. I went there to Le Mans this year and saw the Alpine in full action, and I actually kind of liked it. It wasn't that loud of a car, but it sounded really good, like the sort of way it sounded and drove past you. I really liked it. On top of that, it looked pretty cool. So the Alpine is a cool car in real life. Now, how that transitions into the game, it is also cool. It sounds good, it looks good, all of that. But there are a couple of things with the driving that we need to talk about. I think maybe the only point where the Alpine sort of feels a little bit off maybe some of the other cars is like the low speed rotation on the entry. Like these corners right here, it feels hard to sort of get turned in. You see there, it just feels like it kind of takes a bit of a long time to properly get turned in. That could also be setup changes, you know. Now, just a quick reminder that for now, this is only on the fixed setup, because by the time I've tested this, the Coach Dave Academy setup is now and stuff like that. So this is just on the normal fixed setup, the Le Mans Ultimate setup. So of course, a lot of these things can be changed with setup and a bunch of work. But if you're just driving the fixed series or something like the Alpine, can be almost a little bit difficult. The only place it's really good is in the stability in high speed corners, not in the direction changes. It can get a bit sketchy if you try and push it a little bit too much. And on top of that, it's actually a little bit understeery on slow speed turning. So if you are doing those fixed races, you will just need to test out the Alpine first and see if it's something you can actually deal with, because if you're fine with these characteristics, it could be fine. Now, on top of the Alpine, we have got the Isotta Fraschini, which in my opinion is actually a really cool addition. That is because the Isotta no longer races in real life, which of course is kind of sad. They have retired the car already from the World Endurance Championship. But this is where sim racing is really quite great, because it's able to keep the Isotta car sort of alive, even though it no longer races in real life. It allows us to still experience this wonderful car in a simulated way. And on top of that, if we talk about the driving of this car, I personally think it was quite fun. It's like the steering range is less, right? I'm barely turning my wheel there. I didn't turn it 90 degrees. It feels like it has more rotation. It feels like it has better rotation than the Alpine. It is not as understeery, low speed, you know, the front end is sort of there. Where the Alpine, I think for sure, has a big advantage in the high speed, right? Because look at this, I feel like I'm constantly here just trying to prevent it from snapping. But honestly, I might drive this in some races. As you've just seen, I found the Isotta a lot of fun to drive. It was quite sensitive on the steering. It turned in well to the low speed corners. It was a little bit tricky in the high speed corners, trickier than the Alpine, but you can work your way around that sort of. I feel like it's not understeer that's holding you back in this car, that's for sure. And the great thing, in my opinion, is that, you know, the good thing about sim racing as well is that the pace isn't emulated like real life. So just because this car might have been a bit slow in real life doesn't mean that it is slow in the sim, which is great, because for like online races and stuff, if you want to race this car, we should be able to without being seconds off the pace. Now, I personally think that this update is quite cool. It's a very good mix of new content along with new features. Now, these new features are new features within sim racing. There's the co-op mode, which is sort of a new way of doing it, along with the new content. And I think I'm really excited to sort of have the community now test it out and have all of us just try and test and see what we actually think about it and form an opinion on it. It's great to see that Le Mans Ultimate are bringing something new to the table, something unique, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes in the future. But for now, this update I think is a success from Le Mans Ultimate. I've been Marcus, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.